When I was a kid, I had a teacher say something so strange because it was true. She said, I bet all of you think that Friday night I lock myself in the closet, and on Monday morning I unlock the closet and I come back in the room. None of you imagine that I go home, that I have a family, that I have a life, that I live my life, and then I come back to teach. And I realized, I did think she came out of the closet, and I didn't imagine she had a life outside of that room. And I think most people who are students of a teacher have a very similar experience. That the teacher somehow only exists in their teaching space. And of course, you know, it's not true. And every teacher in the world has a life. And it's hard to imagine what that life is, but most people who do imagine it kind of put it in almost exalted terms, because why would you want to study with a teacher who wasn't somewhat exalted? Why would you want to be with an imperfect teacher? I mean, how would that serve you? It doesn't work for the ego, it doesn't work for the story of your life. You don't go around saying, I have this incredible imperfect teacher. But I'm going to tell you that's in fact the case. Every one of you sitting here has a very imperfect teacher. And I will discredit myself in front of you, because first of all, if that gives you a reason to go find a perfect teacher, fine. We're getting crowded, and it's okay. You can go find the perfect teacher and celebrate that. There's such an illusion around what we're doing spiritually. A lot of it has to do with seeking perfection, arriving at that place where you are perfect as you are. And the assumption is that the teacher got there, and that you're going to get there at some point, and that you will find a path to whatever you think perfection is. And most of you probably think it's a place where there's no more suffering, where you just simply live a life of floating in a sea of ease and joy and beauty and bliss, and you look at the world and you see everything is passing and changeable and impermanent, and you go, okay, oh, this is fine, I can do this, aha, and you have this wonderful, easy life, and one day everybody will have that. And so at the risk of losing every one of you as students, there's nothing true about that. It's not true. It's not like that. And if it is like that, maybe at some point one arrives at something. Maybe before you die, there is that state of permanent, unchangeable bliss. And if you find it, God bless. It's a wonderful thing, I'm sure, to have it. But what I am teaching is something other than that. And if you're here looking for that, you're not going to get it from me. My days are not a lot different than your days, but they are different. Let me show you one way they're different. Let's assume this is your screen of the world. I'm trying to show it to the camera. My arms are probably further than the camera will go, but this is the screen of what you look at in life. And for most people, what they see is 98.7% themselves and 1.3% the world. In other words, you tend to fill your own screen with you. That's all you see, that's all you care about, that's all you think about. It dominates every moment of your life, except for that little bit of time where you worry about whatever you worry about in the world. You know, the immigrants, Donald Trump, politics, who's going to win the Oscars. Whatever your thing is, that 2% of your life that's given over to the world is a very small percentage. And what starts to happen when you start to do spiritual life, spiritual practice, is that screen starts to move down away from you. You become less and less a part of it. And the world or being, the universe, if you will, begins to fill the part that you no longer occupy. And as you start to reduce your absolute obsession with yourself, your obsession with your concerns, your needs, your suffering, why don't you have, why didn't this happen, what should be, whatever, all that stuff goes into a smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller space. And the rest of what is, you gradually discover, is really you. You are totality. Your ego mind is a portion of totality, but it's wildly out of proportion to what is. Awakening awakens you to how small and how insignificant you are as an ego-minded separate entity, and how remarkably vast and unknown you are in the existence of what is. It is a great gift not to be preoccupied with you, the burdens of you, to lighten that up, to let go, to become enlightened is a great gift. To wake up to the truth of reality as opposed to the illusion that somehow this is all about you. It is all about you, but it's not all about the you that you think you are. And finding a way out of that entrapment in your own daily configuration of me, mine, I, letting that go, surrendering it, frees you, it liberates you from one of the dumbest places you can possibly occupy, which is your own mind. It is a waste of time. You need your mind to navigate a little bit through this vastness of unknowing, but only a little bit. I heard a guy talk a while back, an awakened guy at a conference of awakened people, and he was describing his state of being, which was something he called the Absolute, which is something I've come to know. And he described it as everything you want, kind of vast awareness, compassion, love, empathy, openness, beauty, just on and on. And then in the end he said, and also sadness. It's filled with a kind of sadness. And I don't know, that struck me. It really struck me because I hadn't arrived at that. And as this awakening thing occurred, which I thought, and which most of you probably believe, is a final act on some level, that awakening is like, finally I'm there. That's a total illusion. You're never finally there, you're only finally here. And finally is only for a second, because it's gone. It's gone, it goes. The here is constantly in transition. So there's no place to arrive at, because there's nothing you can hold on to. You can only be, period. Being is more a state of flow than it is a static state. It is a presence and an awareness, and it is not empty. It has an aspect of emptiness, and it has an aspect of fullness. And it will be whatever presents itself. And there is nobody in control of that, especially you. It is just happening. Life is happening. Most of our ego-minded experience is to keep all of that at bay. Protect us from what's happening. Why? Because it's so big. It's so vast. It's so impactful. It's so vibrant. It's so rich and real. And it's more than the mind can contemplate. It's more than the body can handle almost. Reality is so enormous. And when we reduce it into me and mine, it's just about why didn't they write me on my birthday? Why can't I have vanilla ice cream? Why don't they have what I'm looking for? It becomes this little tiny preoccupation with something you can handle. When that starts to fall away, when you start to fall away, what is realized is what you have actually always been. And that is infinite and eternal you, being, the I am. Here's what it feels like. First of all, it's always changing. But here's what it can feel like. Last week I was having an experience that was overwhelming. And I don't know who it was overwhelming to, it was just overwhelming. And I tried to explain it to myself. I tried to sense what was going on. And I remembered a movie I saw as a kid called Ballad of a Soldier. It's a Russian film, beautiful, beautiful film. It used to always make me cry and would still make me cry. And it's a story of a young guy named Alyosha, who saves a regiment or a battalion from a tank attack. And he's an unwilling hero. He just does it, and it's so beautiful. And the reward, in a way, that is given to him for having done this is he's given time to leave, I think 2 weeks, to go back to his farm and help his mother with the harvest. And it would be just enough time to take care of business and get back to the unit. And he's enthralled by this freedom to leave the war and go back home and have this time with his mother to be really productive. And the first thing that happens is he meets a girl named Shura. And she has all of these personal needs and problems. And he starts helping her with her problems. And he starts helping all these people he starts coming in touch with, one after another. He's just helping people and helping people. And his time to get home gets smaller and smaller. And finally it gets to the point where he has, if he's lucky and he makes it home, he'll have 10 minutes with his mother. And you're watching this happen, this good guy. And he's on in this Jeep, and they're driving as fast as they can, and they enter the area of the farm, and all these women who are alone because the men are all at war are all working in the fields, and they see him coming, and they start screaming for Shura, Alyosha, Alyosha, and they're screaming, and she looks up and she sees this Jeep coming toward her, and he sees his mother, and she starts running through the field, and he starts jumping out of the Jeep and running toward her, and your heart is breaking. It's breaking. And you realize they're going to have 2 minutes. I should tell you, at the very beginning of the movie, they tell you he does not survive the war. So you, as an audience person, knows this will be the only 2 minutes again that they will ever have, ever. And they come together, and your heart, as the audience, is breaking, more than theirs is breaking. And she's looking at him, and she's touching his face, and she's going, you're shaving. She's amazed that he started shaving. And she wants to know so much, but there's no time for words. What can you say? And he's saying, I have to go. And she's saying, you just got here. And he's saying, I can't help it. And they're hugging, everything you can imagine. And the swell of emotion, the swell of feeling in the audience and in me was almost unbearable, because it was so profoundly precious and time-ridden. It was going to be over. It was passing. And you couldn't hold on to anything, but while it was happening, it was the most exquisite, poignant moment imaginable. And then it passed, and he had to get back in that Jeep. And as he drove off in the Jeep, you knew exactly where he was going, which is where we're all going, to the end of our life, sooner or later. The feeling I had watching that unfold, that movie, 2 weeks ago, was a feeling I could not get rid of. Every moment was that and more. Every moment had that poignancy. I hugged my grandchildren. I watched people on the street. I watched the passing parade of human experience. I watched what was happening on the television and in the newspapers. I saw what we're all going through, the poignancy, the fact that at any moment it can be over. You know, Blanche and I had that accident a few months ago, and I had this heart procedure, and they say that people who've had heart procedures become very existential. Well, trust me, that's beyond true. So I'm living with this unbelievable poignancy, and it is unbearable. And I don't know who's not being able to bear it, because maybe it's my ego-minded Bruce person, but it didn't feel that way. It just felt that's what life is. That's why so many people want to stay hidden in their tiny little space, because you don't feel that much. But if you want to surrender, and if you want to be awake, if you want to be enlightened, you have to open yourself up to the vastness of what is. And that includes feeling. Feelings beyond anything you've ever felt. And it takes an extraordinary amount of surrender and letting go to endure being. Being is not simply joy and bliss. It's joy and bliss and loss and grief all woven together, happening at the same time. That is totality. That is the absolute. That's where we live. If there is a state beyond that, wonderful. If we all leave this world and suddenly we're just embraced by light and by joy and by thank yous and gratitude, if we find ourselves in the embrace of an all-loving being and we find ourselves released from all of that, wonderful. Some people who are awake, enlightened, may in fact be there. If that's true and you find them, go sit at their feet. My teacher's teacher, Rudy's teacher, Swami Nityananda, walked around in a diaper, slept on concrete, and was perhaps what we're talking about, just this free entity. But he had arthritis, he walked with pain, and I felt when I saw him that this was a being that was vast and embracing, not free of anything, but one with everything. So I have to say, in discrediting me, if what I'm saying is limited and not true, if it is a false perspective, then you judge that for yourself and don't come here. Why would you want to sit with somebody who's giving you a false perspective? I completely get it. And I wish I could sit here and say, oh, you know, it's all freedom and light and beauty, and once you arrive where I have arrived, you will have it. Not true. I don't think. If it is true, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I can only tell you what's true for me. The other night I woke up, I've actually been waking up a number of nights now with something going on in the middle of the night that is inexplicable to me. It is panicky in a way. It's like, I've never felt anything like it. It is a kind of psychic pain that is nothing I've ever known before. And I'm going, I don't know, you don't know what to do with it. You know, I don't think there's a medication that will get rid of it. It's something so profoundly deep and human. It's all I can tell you. And I wanted to jump out of my skin. Dying would have been better than sitting in the middle of all of this thing. And maybe some of you wake up at 4 a.m. with this. I used to have it in a mild version. This is not mild. This is really kind of horrifying. And I didn't know what to do except what I've been trained to do over the course of my meditative life was sit down. And I sat up in bed at 4 in the morning, and for an hour I just sat and said yes to this awful, awful experience. Just said yes. Somewhere in the depth of my heart, in that secret portal space that is in all of us, some kind of light, joy, sweetness, started to show through. And the gratitude for that was beyond understanding, because it was a focal point. It was that big, but it was a focal point that balanced out all of that other stuff. And what it did is it kind of spread around and embraced the suffering, whatever that suffering was. And everything found its way back to some kind of what I will call acceptance. And in that acceptance, I laid back down and fell back asleep. If you think your teacher shouldn't have those moments, then you shouldn't study with this teacher. If you think your spiritual life is going to lift you out of suffering, let me know when it does. I'll sit with you. Or not. Because sitting with someone who's been lifted out of suffering does not lift you out of suffering. You lift yourself out of suffering. And if you lift yourself out of suffering, it's not by leaving suffering, it's by opening to suffering. It's by opening to totality. What you discover is that yin and yang, joy and suffering are one thing. They're one thing. And only when you become one with what is, rather than choosing one portion of what is, do you become free. It doesn't mean you're free of those experiences, it's just you are free of seeing a reaction to those experiences. Elaine and I were talking the other day on the phone, and we talked about all of these things that come up inside us and how we react to them. And I said, well, let's talk about the weather. When you're sitting and a storm cloud comes filling the sky and dark clouds, and it was a beautiful day, and now it's gray and it's going to rain and it's getting miserable, do you take it personally? Do you say, why is that happening to me? Why is it getting gray in my life? Mostly not. Or do you walk around when the sun comes out and say, it's shining just for me? Well, maybe you do. But why do we do that with our emotions and our inner life? We take this idea of that which is passing through us as ours. The sky fills up with sadness. The sky fills up with memories of things that happened 30 years ago. These dramas start to sort of play themselves out in your brain, and you immediately identify with it as yours. The larger vision of that is that your own mind is like the sky, and these things come up and they pass away. Very rarely do you have a rainstorm that lasts for the rest of your life. I mean, some people might. But mostly it comes up and it passes. You don't have to go, oh, that's mine. You don't have to own it. You don't have to suffer it. You just watch it pass. And that's enlightenment. Enlightenment is sitting with the thing that's arising and letting it go. If you can't, if it's so dominant and so difficult and such a pain for you, meditate. Sit down and take the tools of this class. Take this thing of asking for help to surrender and just breathe through it, and it will help you. It's a tool that works in daily life because we don't have a lot of tools. Mindfulness meditation, that's a nice tool. You just sit and look at it. But if that tool is not working, if you're trying to be mindful and aware of this thing, that's fine if it goes away or if it stops taking over your experience. But if you can't let it go, if you can't do it, taking this breath into your heart, asking for help to surrender, breathing in, holding your breath, feeling this thing open inside you, feeling this beauty of simplicity and openness and awareness and allowing and acceptance just flood you, that helps. And then let out a little bit of that air and get into your belly and feel your belly expand with asking for help to surrender, and the power of that, the power of freeing yourself from your own stuff, from your own addiction to and attraction to and your own sort of frustration with you. let that go and let this open channel move through you, all of your chakras open, and feel this energy. It's an amazing way to free yourself of your drama. The other thing you do is just be present and observe it. If you can just observe it and let it melt away, that's a great gift. If you can't, use the tools. But one way or another, ultimately, it's happening. Life is happening. It will happen. It will happen, some people will tell you, forever and ever. What is happening is you. This is you happening. Not you, ego-minded self. You, essence of existence. Pure being. That's who you are. That's what you are. And not to know that is to live a very small, very disillusioned and illusioned life. Remember, there's a big screen here, and really it's not about you. You do not have to fill that screen. You're the one filling it. Let yourself be broken down a little bit, 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 and let the vastness of your true self show itself. And at one point, something will come about, and that little bit of you that remains will go, and there will just be this. But the this that you feel is not anything but everything. It's totality. Don't expect the this that remains to be light and emptiness. It is everythingness. And then if you really sit with that everythingness, you will begin to discover it exists within something that has no content. It exists within a space just like the cloud, or just like the sky, that's really empty. There is emptiness, and there is fullness, and they do their own dance. And your job is to sit back and go, aha, yes. Rudy called this spiritual work, and it's spiritual work until it isn't. My friend Bart called awakening moving from the driver's seat to the passenger seat, kind of being driven, transported, but you're still in that car. No teacher can give you the thing you're looking for. Nobody. You alone can find it, unveil it, dig for it, fight for it. Only you can get there. A teacher can inspire, they can help you a little bit. I try to give each of you a psychic hug, if you will, during the class. I do whatever I can. I put my hand psychically on your heart. Sometimes I take you like this. Sometimes I do this. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I do this. I work with each of you to give you the thing you need in the moment. Is this metaphysical, supernatural something? You can make it that. It's just a very simple, silent version of a physical touch. We all need it. We're all here because we all need to be touched. My grandson says constantly, touch, touch, touch. He loves touching. He loves being touched. We all love being touched. That's why we manifest, because touch is so powerful. When you let go of you as an individual, that touch spreads out to everything. Not only will you be in a way in touch with everything, it will touch you. Be prepared for that, because it's big. When everything touches you, everything touches you. You will be walking around in what I call an unfiltered state. You will be pulsing with life. There won't be any one person being touched. It's the universe touching itself, and it does it all day long. Trust me. That little root system digging through the earth, The earth is being touched molecule by molecule by roots that are exploring darkness. Trees are touching the air and the wind and the light and the sky. Everything is being touched. You are being touched. You're here for that. Don't try to escape reality. Don't try to escape life. Try to become one with it. Try to embrace it. Try to be embraced by it. Try to become what you are. Feel your way through it. The incredible thing about a spiritual journey is how misguided it normally is. How much it tends to be about get me out of here. When in fact it really is, please bring me to the core of where I am. You can alone tell for yourself what your seeking is. You can figure it out for yourself. If you're authentic in this, and some of you are, you'll find it. Some of you are wildly inauthentic. And I don't want to point at anybody. Mostly if you're here, it's because you're sincere. But a lot of people come here to avoid finding, strange as that may be. You come here saying, give it to me. Or a lot of you come to emphasize, one, that you don't have it, and two, you're not worthy to get it. And your spiritual life is a constant movement between those two polarities. What? Give me what you have. No, I'm not worthy. Please, I want it. No, I can't. It's like, come on already. You know, I don't like that. I don't want to play that game with you. You know, and I'll sit here and do it. I'll do it because maybe at some point there will be a crack in the armor and we'll really actually break through. But don't make this a Sunday morning church experience. Don't make this about something that you ask once a week for. That's not going to do it. That doesn't cut it. This is like, either this is your life's work or it's not. And I'm telling you, the reward of this, if you want to call it a reward, is not given to people who haven't put their entire life on the line for it. I mean that. You put your entire life on the line. You're saying either this is what my life is about, which is called waking up and coming to the truth of your being, or it's about staying lost in your own figment of your own imagination. You can do that. People do it. Most people, 90, who knows what percent of people do that. They stay lost because they choose to be lost. They don't know that. Nobody would choose to be lost on some level, but people choose to be lost because they're terrified of how big this thing is. And when I describe the emotional life that I've found myself living in this state of being, you know, it's scary. It's scary to people. I watch people scared of the simplest little emotions, scared of love, scared of being scared. People walk around, so frightened of life and so armored off and so rigid and so controlling and so in charge of their own existence that nothing touches them. If you want to be touched and you want to feel the magnitude of what is here, it's going to take all the courage you have inside you and all the commitment and all the wish and all the drive and all of the energy you can possibly muster, all of this navel chakra determination to get there. If you don't have that, forget it. You'll end up having a little bit of a nicer life, which is fine. That's fine. When you wake up, you'll realize that you've always been there. That's what they say, and that's true. When you wake up, you realize you've always been there. It's just the realization of that. But I will tell you, based on what I experience in the middle of the night, based on the experience I have going through the day, if you're not ready for the magnitude of what's coming, it's big. If death is what I think it is, it's big. If you aren't ready for that, and you think you can do it on your deathbed, where I've spent the last 50 years of my life and am still going through this with constant effort, if you will, more importantly, constant presence. If you can't bring yourself to that, you've got a lot of work to do. That's all I can tell you. You've got a lot of work to do. And everybody has a lot of work to do. And if you want to feel real compassion in life, Look at the people around you and you will see, oh my God, what a journey is ahead of them. You sort of understand why there's this idea of many, many lives, because how do you do it in a lifetime? How do you do it? You do it with great commitment, great constant effort. As Rudy said, once you do this work, you have to do it every day for the rest of your life. That's not once in a while. It doesn't do it once in a while. If you really want to get there, and I don't mean you get there, because in the end there's no you to get there. That's where you get. You get to this place where there's no you. That's the thing. What you finally realize, there's never been anywhere to get to. You're right there. But you're right there with such compression and such density that you're not feeling it. Or you are feeling it, but you're feeling it through the density of your body and your mind and your fears. Let go of all that and see it for what it really is. I've been taking these long walks, and I was walking yesterday. Here's the other thing you feel when you find yourself free of yourself. You start walking down the street, and every flower that bloomed is you. Every blade of grass that turned green after the drought is smiling for you. Every person you see on the street, whether they acknowledge it or not, is your own self. The sky is you. The cement is you. Your body is you. The joy and the gratitude and the dynamic of being is so vibrant, so dense with possibility, so rich, so... Everything you've been seeking in your whole life, right there. It's right there, just walking down the street. I woke up yesterday with no idea what the day would hold. It was the most incredibly beautiful day. Every day surprises. Every day fills itself. Every day is wondrous. Every day is full of wonder. And then those feelings go away. Then the day becomes small and quiet. And then drama occurs. Drama. I have a cousin who went swimming in the Great Barrier Reef and walked out of the water, this is 10 days ago, and he had no hearing. His hearing was completely gone. Totally deaf. No explanation at all. He flew back to Houston. The doctors could not figure it out. No idea. He was standing talking to a friend. Like this much hearing came back. And he fell backward, hit his head, and has been unconscious for 10 days. No one knows how or why or what it is. It's a total mystery. The doctors don't know. Nobody knows. His wife sits with him every day. His eyes are open, but he doesn't see her. I say this to you because life is a mystery. It is short. It is uncertain. It doesn't come with a rule book, except for the Ten Commandments, which is the best rule book I know. It doesn't explain itself. It just is. The wonder of being is contrasted with the wonder of unconsciousness and not being, and they coexist. They are one thing. I walked along the streets yesterday with my cousin and his unconsciousness filling me at the same time that life was filling me. The sensations were bigger than I think most people would want to have. The poignancy was so beautiful. The beauty itself was so overwhelming, and it was passing as I walked. That's what life is, guys. That's what life is. It's uncertain. It's impermanent. It is beautiful. It is unexplainable. It is unknowable. It is full of wonder. It is full of horror. It is full of emptiness. It is full of fullness. It's all of the above. You're never going to figure it out. ever. And it's okay, because you are the very thing that you are immersed in. You are the unknowing. You are the being. You are the existence that you're looking for. Stop blinding it with your filling yourself on the screen. Let go of you and just be what you are. It's worth it. It's worth it. And it's short and it's temporary. So honor it. Love it. Enjoy it. Breathe it in. Say thank you. Love people. Love yourself. Love what is. Because you don't have it for long on one level, and you have it forever on another level. You know, Rudy used to say, if you spend your life hating people and then you die, do you think you're going to go on suddenly loving people? This is a lesson. It's a learned lesson. Learn it while you're here, while you're able to learn it. Figure it out. Thank you for coming here, because you're obviously open to hearing this. Don't just listen to it, do it. Okay? I really love you guys. I really care about you. I really want you to know what I'm saying. I'm not just talking to hear myself talk. I hear this stuff flooding through me all the time. I'm just giving it a voice while you're sitting in the room. This is something I can't help but share. I really hope it resonates. Are there any questions? Really, no questions? Elaine?
So there is talk with the Buddha of that which is changeless, and that there is a kind of a nirvana place.
Right.
What is your understanding of that?
When I get there, I'll tell you. I think I have had, like you have had, moments of nirvana. I've had very long moments of nirvana. When I sit down and go back into the stillness of my being, it is untouchable on some level. It is definitely exquisite in its simplicity and its stillness and its emptiness. But I am still embodied. I'm still in the world. I still live inwardly and outwardly, and they tend to balance each other. At some point, the outward is going to be cut off in the way that we know it. The sensory awareness will be gone. At that point, I suspect this inner meditative still point will be there. If it is, I won't be able to tell you. You know, Buddha tells us that's what it is. And my experience is the absolute state of being envelops everything, and there is nobody reacting to it other than its being. It's just being, and it's what it is. I'm going to guess that that's nirvana, but I know we are looking for the still point. We're looking for, let me out of here. Let me have that escape from duality. So there's either escape from duality into nothingness, or there's escape to duality in the embrace of non-dualism, or let's say of duality. By embracing them both, there's no two. Once you have taken it all in, there's no other. Being and non-being, in Sartre's terms, or in existential terms, or in Buddhist terms, are one state. Being and not being are one thing. Trying to say there's a state where there is nothing is a little bit like saying there's a clear sky. If you were to live in a place where there's a clear sky every day of your life, that's remarkable. That's a wonderful thing. But almost every sky, even in Hawaii, still has storm clouds. They still gather. You know, the sky is not always clear. And once you accept that the sky fills and empties, then you are aware that the sky is just a space in which stuff happens. You are a space in which stuff happens. The nirvana you're looking for is the ground of being, and then being happens. So how do you get rid of being happening by just identifying with the ground of being. Well, in a way you can. That's called acceptance, surrender, openness, being available. That's kind of the experience of it. But even that gets challenged by what we'll call physicality, physical life itself. Metaphysics is a wonderful thing, but physicality is where we live. And as long as you have a body and a mind and sensations and all of that, you're going to be in the world of duality. But once you start to really surrender, you being in that world is it's a little microscopic principle in something very, very big. And it's different. It's just a different way of being. I wish I could tell you that there is the changeless without there being something. Just the word changeless means that there is an idea of stuff that changes. So I'm in the opposite. I'm in the opposite pole of that which changes. Oneness has to embrace all of that. That's all I know. And oneness is totality. And oneness has changeable and unchangeable within it. I know you're looking for the changeless. I know you desperately would love to have that space. And like I say, if you meet a teacher who has really found that, and there may well be people who say that, who express that, go sit at their feet. But will that do anything for you? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sitting at their feet. You know, I love people who talk about the changeless. You know, they're out there. They're on the internet, and it's wonderful. And they're speaking a truth. It is a truth. But when you speak of the truth, if your mind understands it, it can't be the truth. It cannot be contained. Truth cannot be contained by your ability to understand it. It just is way beyond that. So let it go, let it go, let it go, and just be and see what that is. And I think you will find nirvana.
When you were talking about living life on the passenger seat, does that mean you really don't have control over what happens in your life? You're just kind of sitting and experiencing it, or, you know, being on the boat off the river and just... Kind
of. I mean, it's hard to believe that. I'll tell you where you have control. The strange control that we have is reaction. You can react to it like in loving terms or in closed terms. But the idea that you're in control, I mean, this is an old philosophical issue, but one of the things you sort of learn when you really awake is that it's just happening. And, you know, you're a molecule in what's happening. You're just being moved around, you know, and you just sort of go, okay, where does this go? And then you watch yourself kind of react to this, and you get quieter and quieter and just go, thy will be done. It kind of enters into that space. It sure feels at times like you're doing. It really feels like that, and we're programmed for it to feel like that because that's how the world works. Ego-minded functioning is how we build time and space. We build buildings, we build ships, we build cars, you know, we do all that incredible stuff. We make movies, we tell stories, we create children, you know, we do all these things, and we're meant to do that. But the physical manifested world, as you will discover as you go deeper and deeper inside, is more dream space than physical space. It's more metaphysical than physical. And it diminishes, it gets less and less and less and less substantial. Its insubstantialness, in substance, whatever the word is, becomes a balance with the substance. And you start to go, it's inexplicable. And you really start to go, okay, if that's what it is, why be at war with it? Why try to direct it? Why try to build empires? What are you trying to do? Be present with it and be one with it, and it will motivate you and inspire you and empower you to live an amazing life. It really does. But it's never been you, it's it. It's creating its life using you but you are not only a partner, you're it itself. You are one with it. You're not separate from it, but you're also not, you're not the totality of it. You're just this little piece, but what an amazing piece. Like that little ant that's digging through the earth and making the soil fertile, you know. He's doing a real job. If he thinks he's the most important thing in the universe, what is that about? Why is that ant walking around thinking it's all about me? It may be doing that, but we as human beings would look at that and go, what a stupid ant. And of course, whatever's above us is looking at us and going, those guys are crazy. You know, we're just doing what we have to do, and we're programmed to do it. It's fascinating, and it takes years of programming because we're such complex organisms, but we're amazing organisms. And then, as I keep telling people, the thing that programs you is this little 2-year-old. The 2-year-old is building the program, and then the 3-year-old, and then the 4-year-old. By the time you're 10, you've been built by these little creatures, these little tiny minds. And then you spend the rest of your life trying to become an adult with these little tiny beings that have created who you are. How do you undo that? It's crazy emotions, it's crazy fears, all these things are built into the system, and they have dominated your ego-minded being. You have to unravel all that. You have to go back down to source and just let it all go and just free yourself from that stuff. That's what we're doing. You know, and then you go, oh, why did I give that kid so much power? You know, we do. It's how we're programmed. Look, it's an amazing journey. It's an amazing journey, and it's every time we try to coalesce it into an understanding and a truth and a given, you know, it works for a little while and then it doesn't work. It's beyond anything. So you finally just throw your hands up and go, I give up. And I give up means I surrender. And when you surrender, it's still there and it's still carrying you along. And you go, wow, this is an amazing ride. Amazing.
So in those moments, you know, where just too much is coming at you, just you know, where I'm aware of it and just thy will be done. Just keep moving.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because what it's bringing up, in a sense, is residual you. You know, I mean, especially if you have an awakening and then that stuff starts reacting to it, it's just a signal to you of what still needs to be washed away. You know, I described this thing of, Rudy talked about spiritual people or awake people or people wearing a white suit with one stain. You know, and that stain has got to be washed away in the end, or lived with, one way or the other, because everyone's looking at the stain, or you think they are. You know, everyone's kind of doing that thing. That's going to get, the spiritual awakening is clearing up everything. It's washing everything away, and ultimately there's no other. There's only what is.
In the show last night at the taper, it was like I was like praying for intermission. I got like front row. I'm sitting in the front row. I was too close.
Yeah.
There was too much going on. People were changing sexual preferences. Everyone was going up, down, this, sideways, and I was like, God, please let intermission get.
What play was that?
Mystery of Love and Sex.
Oh yeah, horrible.
You know.
I saw it. I wanted to leave after the first act. Blanche says, "No, we got to see what happens." I said, "Nothing's going to happen that you're not expecting." And the second act is exactly what you expect, and it's like, oh my God, you know, life is like that.
It was too much.
Yeah,
and it was too much for me in the first row. So
well,
I was like, wow.
I was in the fourth row, and it was too much. And you know, I can tell you, it's really funny. You know, when you start to become unfiltered, all that stuff just pours through you, and it's really powerful. But it needs to speak to you, and when you're filtering it, it becomes an aesthetic. Because, oh, I like that, I didn't like that, that worked, and you become very analytical of an experience. But when you let it all wash through you, it really has cleansing properties. And even though you want to leave in the middle, or even leave in the middle of the act itself, it's like, let go, breathe it in, and let it do its work. Because it will. Even the ugly, imperfect stuff in life really has its effect. And you can let it speak to you. A lot of what comes through is not pleasant, as we all know watching television or reading the paper. Stuff comes through. Let it do its work. It will wipe the slate clean ultimately, or fill you with so much stuff you can't deal with your own density. But I get what you experienced, you know. And I also, by the way, believe in leaving at intermission.
Sure.
I really do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Just wonder if you could speak more. Earlier you said that if you can't do anything with it, you're stuck. Just that acceptance. And for me, it's an experience. It's almost a physical burning, like burning away the dross.
That's Rudy's word was exactly that, burning. That's what it is. It's a good thing to talk about. Burning is sitting with the stuff that is unacceptable, the stuff that's painful, the stuff that is dense in you, the stuff that you don't like. And a lot of it doesn't just evaporate. It literally goes, it catches on, not literally, it figuratively catches on fire, and it's really painful. And if you want to have a spiritual life and you can't handle burning, you're not going to have a spiritual life, because it's going to burn through itself and leave nothing behind. But it will come up. All of the impurities, if you will, have to be burned away. And it's a process. And it's a real process. And you don't arrive at enlightenment without it. And if you do arrive at enlightenment without it, be prepared for a lot of burning to come. Because it has to happen. It's not easy freeing yourself of you. It's not easy. It's a really big challenge. It's the best adventure, the best journey there is. There's nothing more worthy in the entire world than going on this journey. It's kind of why you were born. The fact that 99% of the world is not on that journey does not mean you shouldn't be. There's a reason you're sitting in this room. There's a reason you've come to this. That burning, and it's beautiful that you describe it that way, that burning is at the core of liberation. How you free yourself. The dross is a good word for it. You free yourself of all that stuff that you think of as you. It really is not you. It's just stuff. And you will be free of it. You will find yourself ultimately free of your version of it and suddenly experiencing the world's version of it. Because everybody's living it. Everybody. I mean, what you will become is a friend in need, a person of compassion, a person who can love other people through their suffering, someone who can be available and possibly free them from what they're going through. It's not through your words either. It will be through a look, a glance, a touch, showing up, showing up. So, anyway, be back here in a month. Classes are ongoing. You're all welcome to come to class. More than anything, classes are about showing up and sitting and being quiet. You know, there's always a teacher here. Every teacher will show you something that you need to look at. Whether you like them or don't like them. Some of my best teachers were people I couldn't stand. I used to sit with them and go, oh God, why are they teaching? And then I would sit, and this thing would open up, and suddenly I would feel this unbelievable love for those people. Because the job was not for them to open me, it was for me to open myself. And you open yourself to the thing that's in front of you. That's what you have to open to. You know, everybody wants to open to the thing that's way out there. You know, the thing that's in front of you is yours. Okay, enough talk. Thank you guys for coming. It's beautiful to see you, really, and see you the next time.